Hello, I'm Doug and this is the Taste and Sensibility channel. And today on Fresh Cheese number 16 we are looking at bread cheese. This is the name that Liz Thorpe uses in her book, The Book of Cheese, which I plug every chance I get, and there'll be a description. There'll be a link down in the description to the Amazon page and a few of her videos. But she described this odd stuff I'd never heard about or seen before, but when I started looking, I found it. She recommends Car Valley bread cheese. And I found it locally and bought some. And then I also found this stuff that looks very similar but doesn't say bread cheese anywhere on it, but you read it. This is from Pasture Pride in Wisconsin. And they call it Justo, and you read the label about it and it says often called bread cheese, so it's the same stuff. So it's of Scandinavian descent or Finnish origin, according to all the sources I read. And it's usually the difference between this and other young cheeses or unaged cheeses, they bake it in an oven, which puts this brown coating on the outside. So that's one way in which this cheese is different than most of the fresh cheeses, where the rind, exterior, interior are all the same in most of these things, but this has a different exterior because of the baking. And then it's traditionally served warm. So I heated up most of these pieces in the microwave just to get it warm. And it made the outside surface a little oily. So that's what we're dealing with here. Now, before we get into tasting, let me remind you to like the video down below and leave a comment or a question and subscribe to the channel and click that bell to get notified when the new videos come out on Mondays and Thursdays. So I've got an unwarmed piece here of the Car Valley. Yeah, it's thicker in the middle. So I'm just going to taste it plain. It's a pretty firm texture. Buttery, crumbly, it falls apart, but there's an oiliness to it on the outside, on the inside. It's high fat, or the oil wants to come out and separate from the other stuff. So that is a good flavor. It's also going to dip the non-warmed cheese into this little fig and ginger jam. People say they dip it into things, pop it in sauces. And we will see what the little fig and ginger combination is like. Oh, excellent. The sweetness and fruitiness of the fig goes pretty well with the fat and the salt and the other things that you pick up in the cheese. So I'll just do the very same thing with the Justo, with the Pasture Pride version also. Just to keep the things even as we go through. It is very close. Just a tad less buttery than the Car Valley, which is a California creamery, by the way, I think. And this is Wisconsin. A tad less buttery, a tad more salty. Very good. Both have really good characteristics. Goes with that fig jam, just great. So I am going to move on to the warm cheese. Spin slowly. I knew that wouldn't break right. It's warmed very gently in the microwave. And I don't know what piece to take. I'm going to taste a little bit warmed. The flavors are a little more accessible warm. There's the butteriness pops out, the other dairy notes pop out. Oh, saltiness isn't really accentuated, but the oil comes out to the surface, so there's more oil around as a separate thing. When you hit the really brown crust, you can taste it and sense the difference in texture. So it goes pretty well with a cracker. This would do well on a fruit plate. Cheese and fruit and cracker type thing. This is a large piece of cheese for a little cracker, but here we go. There's a certain savory nature to it. Maybe from the browning of the on the outside. Maybe from just being warmed. Very nice texture, good flavors. The butteriness isn't so obvious in the warmed cheese. It's still there. And let me do the Pasteur's Pride just to keep up and keep them even. That's right, Pasteur Pride. It's a tiny bit thinner, so there's going to be less cheese. I didn't taste it plain warm yet. Same sort of characteristics. The browned part has a different texture and a different flavor since it's been baked and it's responded to that browning and baking. And now I'll try with the cracker, just a flatbread. Saltiness is there, the butteriness is there, the interesting savory cooked flavor from the outside being browned is very nice. So all that is excellent. So I'm going to try the Pasteur's Pride on the buttery cracker. Buttery all around. Buttery character, saltiness really makes everything really good. And I can still taste that browned outside of the cheese. Wow, this is wonderful. This would go well with so many things. Back to Caravali. That's too big of a piece. I'll just eat a corner off of it. See how brown? Interior is nice and yellowish, off-white. Good cooked flavor, good dairy flavor. It's not necessarily cream or milk, but the butteriness, I guess, is the main flavor. Wow. Excellent on that multi-grain, non-wheat cracker. Flavor just went so well with the graininess of it. So both of these are just about neck and neck in the flavor department, or how well they go with things. Characteristics are very similar. So now we're doing the Pasteur Pride on the non-wheat cracker. So salty, oily mouthfeel, not really creamy. It's a thick, springy, chewy, tougher type cheese, and it flows a little bit when it's warmed. But you wouldn't call it smooth or creamy. But the butteriness of the dairy notes is the outstanding feature, and then the cooked exterior is nicely browned and has that browned flavor. This is very good. Now I'll do one little dip of the warmed piece, each warmed piece, into the fig preserves. Again, the saltiness, butteriness just goes so well with the sweetness and complexity of the fig and ginger preserves. Now the same with the Pasteur's Pride. So I'm sure there's quite a few more things to put this with, but this is a wonderful thing to know about. So I'm thinking, I see these in a local grocery store all the time, and they have different herbs and mixtures in there. So you might get a hot spicy pepper one, or rosemary, or Italian herbs, or something like that. So they make different flavors and varieties, and these are like $6 for 6 ounces, I think. This I may have gotten at Whole Foods. And these are weighed out individually, but this is like 0.6 pounds. At $15 a pound, made it $8.84. So that's the kind of price we're looking at for this stuff. So it might be something people have not seen before or come across. So it'd be an interesting addition to a cheese plate or fruit tray or something like that. Or it might be something new for them. It's new for me. And I was glad I was able to run across one of Liz's recommended brands. So this was a nice, pleasant, successful surprise to me. So I'll remind you to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, click the bell to get notified, and leave any comments or questions down below. I will leave links to the cheeses and to Liz's book and some of her videos in the description below also. So that'll do it for this episode. And come back for more fresh cheese.